Our water connection acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land throughout Australia and their connection to country, sky, water, and community. We extend our respect to the traditional custodians of the place where you are listening. This episode is recorded in Kaurna country and Wurundjeri and Bunurong country of the Kulin Nation. How can something as simple as clean water change lives? What does it take to build a world where everyone has access to clean water and sanitation services? Today, we explore the challenges and the solutions to make this vision come true as part of this special release episode. My name is Jess Borges. I'm on a mission to increase your water curiosity, and this is Our Water Connection. Welcome to this special episode. Today, in Our Water Connection, we decided to participate in the third edition of Podcasthon, the world's largest podcast charity initiative that brings together podcasters around the world to raise awareness for charitable causes. For 1 week, more than thousands of podcasts will highlight a charity of their choice. So we were very excited to join this initiative. And of course, being these are water-focused podcasts, we could not think of a better charity to highlight during this podcasting than WaterAid Australia. And that's why today I'm joined by Tom Muller. Tom is the Chief Executive of WaterAid Australia. He has a deep understanding of WaterAid's programming in multiple countries around the Asia-Pacific region and a passion for WaterAid's focus on integrating water, sanitation, hygiene with gender, diversity, disability inclusion, health, and climate change adaptation approaches. Tom has 20 plus years of international development experience, and he has also been an advocate. Welcome to A Water Connection, Tom.
Thank you, Jess. It's so good to join you on Water Connections.
Thank you. And like any story, let's start at the beginning. We had a chat a few weeks ago and we talked about the story of WaterAid. So could you share a little bit of the story behind WaterAid Australia's founding and its primary mission?
Yeah, absolutely. Back in about 2002, 2003, the international development community in Australia was running a campaign around water and why Australia needed to have a focus on water. And some of the people involved collaborated with some people from the Australian water industry, and they recognised there was a real gap in Australia's development community. There needed to be an organisation that really focused on water, sanitation and hygiene. So, yeah, some leaders in the Australian water industry, some leaders in Australia's development community, got together and decided to form WaterAid because they could see the need for an organisation to really champion access to water, sanitation and hygiene for everybody, everywhere. And we've been incredibly lucky ever since that that foundation by the water industry has given us just amazing connections and relationships across Australia and a basis from which we've been able to thrive and grow ever since.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's very interesting that it was born within the same industry out of a need to probably contribute towards a big issue. And how does WaterAid Australia, oh, well, should I ask first, is this charity all over the world or is concentrated in this region of the world?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when WaterAid was established, the people who founded it in Australia engaged with WaterAid UK, which was established back in 1981. And WaterAid UK is still the largest part of the WaterAid Federation. But there's about 22 country programs from Mozambique to Tanzania, Ethiopia, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Colombia, the countries that we focus on, PNG, Timor-Leste, Cambodia, and then we do work across the Pacific as well. And then there are federation members that make up the whole WaterAid Federation and provide a lot of the financing and funding for the work. So WaterAid Sweden, WaterAid Japan, WaterAid Canada, WaterAid America, WaterAid UK, and WaterAid India and ourselves. So together we make up the WaterAid Federation. We're all driven by the same passion for universal access to water, sanitation, and hygiene. We've all got a collective, ambitious global strategy to really make a difference between now and the end of the SDGs.
Nice. No, that's really interesting to know because I was thinking like before I came to Australia, I'm pretty sure had heard of WaterAid. So yeah, it's part of a big federation of initiatives, and then this part in Australia was born at the beginning of the 2000s. That's very interesting. If we think about projects, I don't know, how does it work for WaterAid to actually get in the ground and do some of these projects to advancing the objectives of getting clean water and sanitation services for everyone?
Yeah, I mean, we are really driven by context. So one of the things I love about WaterAid is the way in which we're really we have amazing Papua New Guineans and Timorese staff and Cambodian staff who really understand the context and have the relationships with women's rights organizations or disabled people's organizations or with subnational government or with the national government or with the private sector. So we really look to what we call system strengthening. So we don't want the work to not be sustainable and not lead to ongoing functional water and sanitation outcomes. So we try and really work with the actors that are already in a place like Cambodia and help them to strengthen what they're already doing to accelerate progress. So one of the exciting things in Cambodia over the last sort of 3 or 4 years has been some work partnering with 4 provinces to help them accelerate towards ending open defecation. And so
Hmm.
we do a lot of the program design work with those partners. We do all the community consultation with the partners, and we design the solutions with the partners so that the work that we're going to do is really fit for the context and the solutions are ones that can be sustained.
Yeah, okay. That's very, very interesting that you have like, yeah, presence in all the countries where you work, and then that's your way to kind of interact with all the other local actors which will be kind of involved in a particular problem. So each project will be very different because I guess the context will be very different, and then they're in different stages of development. Is that sort of the case? What happens with the projects you guys work on?
Yeah, I mean the context and the projects are always different. I mean, we have some foundational elements. As I said, we work on system strengthening. So just like somebody is turning on their tap in Adelaide or Melbourne, there's a whole heap of regulation around water. There's a whole heap of different actors involved in water. There's the tariffs. There's the financing. So when we're designing, we use our system strengthening approach, but we also really focus on looking at the climate vulnerabilities and how do we build projects that are climate resilient. We really focus on gender as a core part of our program design. So while each of the projects are different, there's some core minimum elements to how we design programs and who we involve and how we consult with communities to make sure the solutions are right. And we also absolutely every context is different. So a solution in a village in Timor-Leste might use some very low tech solutions to deliver the water from the spring versus a private pipe water operator in Cambodia that will have a water treatment facility and be a little more sophisticated. So we try and use solutions that the communities can maintain themselves.
Yeah, yeah. I do have a question on that later on, but like, yeah, that's very interesting to learn how that works, and that you have like a framework of like these are the minimum things that sort of like apply for everything, and let's see how we can apply it for different contexts. Do you collaborate with other organizations here in Australia as way to deliver some of those programs, or is mostly kind of the people that you have within the team of WaterAid Australia that drives the things with the people in the countries where you have
Yeah.
presence?
No, over the years, we've collaborated with lots of different organisations, and the HARC, who's an Australian consulting company, have done work with us in Papua New Guinea. We've done lots of collaboration over the years with UTS, lots of collaboration with the International Water Centre, and we're very fortunate to have many parts of the water industry involved in some challenges that we set. So last year, we sort of set some challenges around Papua New Guinea. One was a climate water challenge, one was a human resource capability challenge, and one was a sanitation challenge and informal settlement. There were about 22 teams from across the Australian and New Zealand water industry who designed solutions to those challenges. So this is a program we run called Winnovators. And yeah, so we're trying to always tap into the knowledge, the skills and the expertise of the Australian water industry where it's appropriate and when we can blend it in the best way with the expertise of the country colleagues.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that makes total sense. And that's kind of on the day to day, or kind of like the activities that you guys perform. I was curious to know, what are the most pressing challenges that WaterAid encounters in these efforts? Because I mean, one that comes to my head just when you were talking was like you work on community led initiatives that could be very low technology all the way to like water utilities that would have like water treatment plants and all sorts of more traditional big city infrastructure. But what other challenges WaterAid faces like in delivering these projects and these initiatives?
I guess there are a mix of challenges. I mean, I get it. Every context is different, and so you have to operate in Cambodia is a different governance structure, say to Papua New Guinea, compared to say Timor Leste. Papua New Guinea, there's over 700 languages. There's such
Oh, yes.
diversity. Even the challenge of how to get to some of the locations. We're about starting a new program in a place called Rabaul and Pomio. So you've got to fly to Rabaul and then you've got to take the ferry to Pomio. It's a climate resilient community water program. So just the sheer distance, just some of the nature of the delays you get. I mean, again, in PNG at times in the last 12 months, there's been delays because of fuel shortages or work that's been done on airport runways. So, I mean, there's very practical challenges through to, the challenges of climate change and the impacts of climate change and how do you integrate how do we start changing the programs we implement to have that resilience? So, yeah, and then there can be challenges, as you say, around technology. Often people come to us and say, well, we've got this great technology, we'd love to partner with you, but often technology is not the solution. And we really focus, I guess, on the people side from the
Mm,
impact, but also the people side on how do you bring about lasting change. So again, do a lot of work in water, sanitation, hygiene, and healthcare facilities. And I remember going to see a healthcare facility in Cambodia where an international donor had put in a very high-tech solution. It broke down in about 6 months and, there was just not the supply chains to do the maintenance.
yep.
So you've got to think through those challenges around actually how do you maintain the solution that's been put in so that you get the benefit. Yeah, I mean, there's also challenges around finance. You've got to raise the funds, and that's part of for the country teams. They're often engaging in dialogue with government actors around their responsibilities. So one of the challenges that an organisation like WaterAid faces is in most countries, responsibility for water, sanitation, hygiene is split across so many different government ministries. So there's that whole lack of coordination. There's a lack of a government agenda around it, which creates a whole heap of challenges that the teams are always navigating.
Yeah. Yeah. And then again, it will be like so unique of every single community or place where you guys are working. So for sure. You mentioned already like a few examples of like places that you have been or like things that you have been involved. What's one moment in your work that made you realize just how life changing clean water and sanitation services can be for a community?
Yeah, one of the things that's really stayed with me since I joined WaterAid in 2015 was when I was in Fiji, and this wasn't a WaterAid program. This was another organization's program, but we were there as a sort of sharing and learning exercise. And it was an informal settlement. And I guess just meeting with the household and just seeing just how vulnerable they were to the impacts of rising tides, just how vulnerable they were in terms of there just being no sanitation. And so I guess I roll forward to the work we've been doing in Papua New Guinea in a place called Parry. It's an informal settlement. Actually, it's a traditional village, and the traditional custodians of the land are the Moita Koita people. And there's about 6,000 households. And we've been doing work to help those households have access to pipe water from Water PNG. And, those households at the moment would be carting water in, or they'd be paying extremely expensive prices to access water. And so having been to Parry multiple times over the last few years, just seeing seeing the difference that pipe water will make, talking to the people who are running the micro utility, if you like, that we've helped them establish, that stays with me. And it stays with me, and it also, I guess, sets the challenge in that we've done the water aspects for Parry, but there's a whole heap of challenges around sanitation. And at the moment, if you go to Parry, the houses are on stilts that go out over the water, and a lot of people just use drop toilets straight into the water. So yeah, I guess it's seeing people, seeing the difference that the provision of water and sanitation hygiene makes. I guess I could go back earlier to when I started out in development back in 99, working in Afghanistan and Pakistan, and, just water insecurity and conflict around water. I mean, water is life, but it's it's such a source of conflict as well. So for me, it's that how do you bring about better water governance and better water access that really motivates and drives me, and I guess has shaped multiple parts of my experience over the last 25 years.
Yeah, for sure. And like I think, yeah, once you kind of see the effect that it can have in a community, just yeah, would change completely your way of seeing things. And then honestly, when people are here in countries such as Australia or even in urban regions of Colombia where I'm from, you just open the tap and water will be there. But like it's not the reality for many communities, and being able to progress that. And as you say, it's like one little step, you kind of got the water supply sorted, and then you have all these other multiple steps, but that is also already a big step, I'm pretty sure, for those communities. So it's very interesting to hear
And
your
it's
experiences.
it's so I mean, the communities are so generous. I mean, I think, you know, I was in Timor last year and we went to Manafahi province, about 3 hours drive from the capital, Dili, and we went back and saw a community where we had done work 10 years ago to help put in a simple water system. There was some landslides that impacted it, and we were doing some work with the community and the local government to upgrade the facility again. But, the generosity of just sitting down there with the community and talking to them about it, how do they maintain it? Maybe there are 40 households. I think each household was giving I think it's about half a dollar every quarter to the community's operations and maintenance fund. It doesn't
Yeah.
sound like much, but for those households, it was a huge contribution. And it was them all recognizing that actually they don't want to go back to a scenario where they did have to walk 2 hours to collect water. They even want to go back to a scenario where they couldn't maintain their toilet facilities. And they recognize the impact when you do have open defecation, and the health impacts and the gendered impacts. So I always am struck and I guess motivated not only by the great work that we do, but when you go and you work with people and you listen to them, just their generosity and their willingness to share what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Yeah, like that links a lot into one question that I had here, because some of the examples I was looking into the WaterAid website, and we have been talking about these. Some projects are very low scale, and then like driven mostly by community, they're community led initiatives. Why do you think these are so effective? Like, or how do we make these things so effective in a way that they can really run with them and it doesn't become like a one time solution, like the example you did before of this magnificent technology that 6 months after suddenly like it was not put in place in a certain way to make it
Right.
last longer. Like how can we ensure that these things have a long-term impact?
I think the heart of it is that ownership from the start. And whether it's the community ownership or whether it's subnational government ownership or national government ownership. And I think one of the things I love about WaterAid is we absolutely work, as I said at the start, about context, and we absolutely work in terms of the system in that context. We don't just come in and do a project. There's lots and lots of evidence of water sanitation actors over the years going in and putting in a tap stand or doing another project and it just breaking down because actually there hasn't been the ownership. So I think about some of the best work we do in schools, and a lot of that work starts with, well, what does the school board, what's their vision for their school environment? Where would putting in more water and sanitation fit within their school master plan? How will they maintain it? How will they finance it? So I think it's that ownership, it's the community engagement, it's the engagement with all voices in the community. And then it's that sense around, how do you have a long-term, how does it connect with the long-term plan that communities have? Because communities want to thrive and they recognize, the importance of water, sanitation, hygiene. And a bit like the work in Cambodia, where we've done all this work to help provinces achieve open defecation, but now they want to get to safely managed. How do you get to safely
Yeah.
managed? So I think also you've got to celebrate the wins. You've got to celebrate, when open defecation occurs, or when there's an increase in pipe water access, or when you've done some great work with a healthcare facility to make it more resilient. So I think partly it's also celebrating as well and making it a big event for communities.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the more you talk about it, the more I reflect on like how water, it is something that first we take for granted sometimes. Second, it just involves so many things in the life of a community and a society. When you talk about like, oh, we approach the schools, and we ask them what their plans are and how they want to tackle these. And it's something that from a perspective of someone that might be very technical and they're thinking more like, oh, we need a tank, we need a pipe, and then we taps, is like there's all the other things that are related into this that will fit into that ownership that you talk about, that communities need to engage. And that happens everywhere. Like we would love to have more community engaged in our big cities with the problem of water, not in the same scale. Thank God we do have access to water in the big cities, but there are other challenges that we face that having the community on our side and pushing for some of the stuff that we want to go through it definitely has parallels to it.
Definitely. And I think that's the thing. It's different. It's a different context, but there's lots of parallels. And I mean, again, that's what we love about the connection with the Australian water industry is people get what we do, they understand what we do, they're motivated because they have the same commitment that we have, that there should be universal access to water, sanitation, hygiene, but they recognize how we work and the importance of the approach we take. I guess coming back to your question around how do we make it sustainable as well, I was just sort of thinking as you were talking that one of the things we've done in Timor-Leste is use something called Tarabandu, which is it's a traditional village law. So one of the ways to protect the water springs is to have worked with communities to have it integrated into Tarabandu. So again, I think
Okay.
you've got to find all sorts of ways to support communities to better protect their water resource, to increase their water security, to then think about how do you go from protecting that water source in just one village to a larger catchment level. So we're always interested in using traditional village law where we can and using the right technical solutions where it's appropriate as well. So again, its context is always going to be different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always going to be different, and it's probably always going to be a bit of a mix of both, but like getting into that and trying to understand the local context and how things are run in other aspects of their communities is definitely a key part of it. So we have talked now, Tom, like maybe how general projects work and like what are the challenges. I like to look ahead a little bit. What are Aid Australia's primary goals and like strategies and dreams for the future in the sector, on the sector of like water supply and sanitation services?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, our goal partly aligns with the WaterAid global goal. So it has four strategic aims. One, which we call universal access, which is about working in districts or provinces or states to achieve universal access around water, sanitation, hygiene. One's really around financing, just recognizing that actually water, sanitation, hygiene, it's a solvable challenge, but the world does need to finance it. And that can be through blended finance models. It can be through increase of ODA. It needs to be engaging with governments in the countries where we work in terms of the tariff structures in different contexts. So you've got to look at the financing aspects and have a long-term vision around that. Absolutely around climate change and climate resilience, and actually demonstrating models for integrating household level access to water with larger water resource management approaches and larger water security approaches, and making sure that the human needs are valued along with all the other agricultural needs, industry needs, ecological systems, and making sure we've got a comprehensive approach. And then the fourth area that really drives our global strategy is really around public health and the integration of water, sanitation, hygiene into healthcare facilities. So if you were to ask me within our region, what are we really driven and motivated by? Tragically, there's a real lack of data around water and sanitation and hygiene in healthcare facilities across the Pacific. We would absolutely love to be part of the solution to really drive a transformation in healthcare facilities, given how it impacts people's life from birth through to their entire journey. So healthcare facilities are one, when we think it's a solvable challenge, it's a solvable global challenge, it's certainly a solvable regional challenge, and it's one we're really actively engaged in with some really excellent projects in Papua New Guinea and Timor-Leste and Cambodia, but also some collaborations across the Pacific. We are really, the climate resilience, as I was talking about earlier, modeling different solutions, different nature-based solutions, and trying to take those to scale in different contexts. In Cambodia, as I said, we've celebrated a number of provinces reaching ODF, but we
Yeah.
really are motivated by the challenge of how do you get to safely manage in different contexts. And I'd say across all of that, I mean, one of the things I love about the work we do is the collaboration we do have with women's rights organizations. So we've done some great work across the Pacific with organizations from Vanuatu, Solomons, PNG, Fiji, and Samoa to really look at menstrual health and championing how can you have different policies in different countries, how can you have different supply chains to actually give women the access to the menstrual health and hygiene products that they need because it's so fundamental to their health, well-being and life, and it should be a priority for
For
all of
sure.
us. So it's a priority for us in terms of the way in which we work in all the different countries where we work, but we've facilitated this great network across the Pacific, and it's one where we'd love to see it deliver the results that people are hoping it will.
Yeah, for sure. Like you have worked in projects maybe related a little bit more with the water and sanitation side, but like you already had the network. So why not keep going into some of the other problems that these communities face? And in terms of those priorities, I think they're quite interesting. The reason I was asking this is because my next question is like, what are the different ways that people can support water aid? What can we all of us listening to this episode do to support water aid in all of these wonderful priorities and projects that you guys work around across the region?
Well, I mean, there's lots of ways. One is go online and read about the great projects, go online and learn about water sanitation, hygiene, and the global challenges that exist. If you're in the water industry, get involved in water aid events in your state, reach out to the water aid committee in your state, participate in our events, champion our cause within your company. If you can, we would love it if people could donate. Like all organizations, we are a mix of grant funding and public donations. And the public donations really underpin and provide the fuel that allows the country staff to do all the amazing work that they do. So there's a range of different ways. You can get in touch, reach out. We'd love to meet people and talk about our work. So we encourage if you're in the water industry, see if your company's a member of WaterAid. If they're not, we'd love it if you made the case for why your company should be a member of WaterAid. Yeah, but there's lots of ways to get involved. But at the end of the day, if you can give some money, it does go a very long way and it helps us have the impact we're trying to have. And it helps us work with amazing partners in the countries where we work. And, it's a funny time for international development. The UK government just announced a reduction of their aid budget, and other countries have reduced their aid budget over the years as well. So we are always looking to do things differently and raise funds in different ways. So we'd love to have your support.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think it's good that you separate it or not like describe it in a way that people that are within the industry, there are ways that we can support. Like, I've been to a couple of the fundraising events and I know people that are in the committees, but also people that might be outside of the realm of the water industry might be listening to this. And I like that one of your ideas was to just get and read, go to our website and learn of what we do, learn of what is that you're trying to achieve. And I think that is a first step into getting people more interested in all of these. So that no, it's great. A great summary of all the ways of contributing.
Yeah, and just learn about water. I mean, water's amazing. I mean, we had a staff meeting today, and a colleague did an acknowledgement to country and shared her sort of water journey, with connections to Sierra Leone and connections to where she currently lives now in Wurundjeri country. But water is also stories. So I think, embrace learning about water and water stories and become a champion for why people should be so interested in water. We're really lucky. I mean, some of the ways we do some of our water work is, engage with companies that extract and use a huge amount of water and actually have an obligation to really look at how do they replenish water. So in
Yeah.
Cambodia, the team work with the garment factory industry to look at how do you actually make the water and sanitation conditions better for the workers, but also how do you actually replenish the water that's been extracted. So water is an amazing topic once you get into it. So get involved and think
I
about
know.
water and sanitation.
Yeah, I know it's a fantastic area to be involved in. This episode is proudly supported by the Chris Davis AM Fellowship, an initiative of the Australian Water Association. His legacy lives on through this fellowship, empowering efforts to keep his passion for innovation and community impact alive. We're honored to have the support of this fellowship this season too, as we continue to share stories that connect us all to water. Now, back to the episode. Tom, how would you explain your work if you have a friend that is not in this sector, not in water, not in international development? How do you explain your work to someone that has nothing to do with where you work?
I guess it's a bit like, when they get up in the morning, what do? They use the bathroom, they turn on the tap. So I guess we would keep it in simple terms. It's about working in solidarity with people who want to be able to access good water, good hygiene, good sanitation. And it's about respect, and it's about solidarity to help people make their own lives better through access to the tap and the toilet and the hygiene that my friend just woke up and used. So it's, at the end of the day, it's simple. It's the things that we do every day, and we're trying to help other people have the same rights that we have and the same rights that we enjoy without really thinking about it too much. So we're just trying to extend that human right where we can for everybody.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful, and great explanation of it. Tom, what would be your message to young water professionals who might be listening to you right now?
Oh, I think if you're a young water professional, set your sail and be ambitious for the impact you want to have. Set your sail and listen to others and engage and be curious. Yeah, listen to people's lived experience of exclusion from water, but also the power that comes from when you do have access to water and sanitation, hygiene. Yeah, and I guess think about what's community engagement look like in your context. International development, at the end of the day, it's a people business, and it's about engagement and participation. And I think for me, I just think it's such a foundation for doing things well. So if you're a young water professional, yeah, I would be open and curious about potentially going into international development, but I would also be embracing the community development aspects that international development teaches us bring about effective change.
I think that's a very good point, because sometimes some people that might be in the water industry, they come from a quite technical role, and myself, I'm an engineer, so quite trying to kind of look into only certain parts. But this project and many other years of like projects and experiences that I've had have taught me that is that's just a little part. And we talked about it earlier. The technology is the easy part. All the rest of the things that involve community and other organizations and all those interactions is what sometimes are the biggest obstacles, but also the biggest rewards in these type of projects. So yeah, thanks to you for sharing that. And to finalize, Tom, these last three questions, I ask them to all of my guests. Why do you work in the water sector?
Well, so I've been at WaterAid since 2015, and I love the way water, sanitation, hygiene connects with every aspects of human health, well-being, our lives. And so it's so foundational to human rights. I don't come from an engineering background. I come from an international development background. Yeah, I've done a lot of work in Australia as well, in working for something called the Tasmanian Council Social Service and advocating around people's access to essentials in Australia. So I love the way in which water, sanitation, and hygiene is the foundation for everything, and allows you to have such rich conversations and bring about change by engaging in so many different parts of human life.
Yeah, that's right. It is. It is such a broad sector, and that it just interlinks to many things in society. Tom, thank you very much for your time today. It was wonderful to learn a lot more about the work that WaterAid Australia does. What is it like, the typical, non-typical? We learned that there is no typical project. They're all context-based, and like understanding how those interactions work, looking into the future of WaterAid, and also engaging people and motivate them to get involved. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Jess, and congratulations on the Our Water Connection. And thanks for choosing us to be a partner on this great podcast hackathon that you're involved in. It's really appreciated. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit more about WaterAid as well.
I did, and I hope everyone listening to this would have loved to learn a lot more about this charity. It was definitely my first choice. It's like, oh, I can't be any other charity. I'll just make it happen, and here we are making it happen. And so thank you very much. Cool. This wraps up this special episode of A Water Connection that was part of the Podcasthon. If you have enjoyed it, feel free to visit the podcasthon.org website to discover all the other associations and charities that other podcasters are supporting today. This is a global event, but I've heard of many other Australian podcasts participating. So go there and learn about all the wonderful charities. Thank you for listening and for being part of this community. As always, you can send us a message and tell us what you think about this episode or other ideas of episodes that you want us to explore. So there's a link in the show notes for you to reach out to us. Don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform and social media to stay up to date to any updates and any things that are coming up your way. Keep your curiosity flowing, and we'll see you next time.